And now, time to get in the huddle with your host, Charles Barge Ritchie, here on the Meta Steel Podcast.
This thing belongs to Mr. Ronnie, belongs here, and let's see if we can bring this down.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome to this edition here of the Meta Steel Podcast with me, Charles Project Ritchie. As you can join me every Mondays and Wednesdays here at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We had a little bit of a tweak to the kickoff time of the Meta Steel Podcast. I just want to thank you, those of you that are welcoming, joining in right now. Hope everyone is being safe. First and foremost, throughout this virus that has been going out, the coronavirus that has been circling its way for like the past month now and getting more serious action for the last couple of weeks. Hearing reports from president or governors and people in our city, states, all across the U.S. I know everyone's on page right now to see what's going to be happening next. A lot of eye-opening stuff when you got not only churches, but schools, jobs, bars. A lot of stuff is just going down the tubes right now, unfortunately, at this point in time. And first and foremost, I just want to leave you my love, thoughts, and prayers right now. Hope everyone is finding a way to get some closure here. But right now, I think the only good news that stood out this past weekend, I mean, I guess if you're an NFL fan, we got the latest on the CBA. What are the biggest changes? We're going to get to that in just a moment here. And then plus, Steelers are busy just like any other team right now with some latest cuts, some signings, releases, all that stuff, and much more. If you guys want to feel free and be part of the Meta Steel Podcast, again, the number I welcome anyone to join that. I'll be willing to take their call. It is 312-209-2232. Again, that's 312-209-2232. Again, you can always follow me on Twitter at Prodigy Ritchie, at Meta Steel CJR, at On Deck CSR. And then you can also follow me on my YouTube channel, Meta Steel Podcast. And then you can also check me out on Instagram, like I said, Prodigy Ritchie, Meta Steel Nation, at On Deck CSR. And then if you guys want to catch all the latest podcasts for the Meta Steel Podcast, you can also look me up on Mixcloud, which I also do some shows on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. I do a show every Saturday called On Deck. I did not do one this past Saturday, given the circumstances that were happening. Was going to try and go up, but decided to stay home Saturday. Only went out a little bit Sunday through a quieter crowd right now. And let's get ready to get into it right now. I want to hear your thoughts, reactions right now. So this year we will be having the start of the NFL playoffs, which will be expanded. You'll be having an extra playoff team coming into this year as it stands. And right now, as we look at it, the way it's being proposed when this was going into the CBA negotiations, you're talking about 6 games on Saturday and Sunday total, because you're going to be going from 12 to 14 games. That's been one of the big significant changes. The only thing that remained a little bit in question as far as like right now is like the 17th game. It doesn't look like it's going to go into effect this season at all from what we're being told. But let's get ready to go into some of the significant changes. This is by USA Today Sports by Tom Shad. And one of the things he brought up here too, the 17-game regular season. I mean, this new CBA paves the way for the NFL. They have one more week to the regular season schedule, move that has been long sought by owners and largely criticized by players. I mean, basically, once that does go into effect, you're going to be having 18 games pretty much throughout the season with one bye. And then here's the biggest thing too. You're going to be having a shortened preseason. That's been inevitable for quite some time, as you can tell, because the 17-game regular season, new CBA calls for a shortened preseason. Each team will play 3 preseason games instead of 4 beginning next year in 2021. So again, for those of you tuning in, wondering when the shortened preseason game is going to be starting, that begin in 2021. I mean, so that's a little bit of relief, I guess you could say, right there. So you definitely got some time right there to think about this. So I think for this year, you won't have to worry about the 17-game season schedule. But I'm not going to lie to you. Let's be honest here, because as a fan, when I first heard the notion of probably adding 18 games, I mean, I was 26 going on 27 years old, and this was back in 2010, even during the season. I liked the idea at first of having more games. I'm not going to lie to you. I love the NFL that much, as well as my Steelers and the game of football, especially the NFL. But when we look at so much, I mean, as far as like the damage it has done, I mean, when you look at the health and safeness of the players, which kind of does go out the wayside at times when you're trying to add an extra game. That was the ultimate sticking point in this. I mean, for right now, another big significant change too. I mean, the salary cap was supposed to be reported at around or $200 million. Instead, it's a $10 million increase from last year. So now the salary cap set for all teams is going to be $198.2 million for this season. And I think that one is definitely huge. But the good thing about that, too, and you know the Steelers, I mean, ever since dealing with the salary cap and stuff, I mean, they've been pretty good as far as, like, where they be taking a lot of players' base salaries, taking it out and giving them, guaranteeing them the money up front. And they'd be able to spread, I mean, convert it into a signing bonus where they would remain the length of the contract. And we got one guy we're going to get into coming up here shortly that was reported by right now when we look at it today on this episode here. I mean, for that coming out, Adam Cappella, Sirius XM Radio, and it's regarding Vance McDowell. We're going to get into him in just a moment here. But like I said, let's continue on here with the 6 biggest changes to the CBA. Also right now, under the new CBA, the players are guaranteed to receive 48% of the league's overall revenue beginning 2021, which with the ability to increase to share 48.8% through a media kicker, which applies in any season the league plays 17 games, according to NFLPA fact sheet. So, in other words, I mean, obviously it won't be this year as it sounds like right there, but remember too, I mean, they were supposed to get like up to like $5 billion in private leagues. NBA players are guaranteed to receive between 49 and 51% of revenue under their CBA. NHL players at least 50%. Baseball's revenue sharing system, I mean, isn't all that simple, but Commissioner Rob Manfred told the New York Times 2018 that players have received approximately 50% in recent years. And that, I will admit, I mean, that is kind of the only thing that's a little fishy right here. And I want to welcome a few folks, those of you guys tuning in right here. Becky and Terrell, welcome very much. Hope you guys are having a good day. Like I said, it's a wise time right now to be closure. Definitely got hands forced into it. No doubt about it. I mean, as we look at everything, but I mean, when we detail more stuff in the CBA too, drug policy and disciplinary changes. That's another thing that a lot of players have been very frustrated with the commissioner. I mean, because when they did sign off on the last CBA, the NFLPA, under Executive Director DeMaurice Smith, remember, what's one of the biggest things within the first 5, 6 years or 7 years of the CBA that a lot of people were aggravated over was Roger Goodell's control. But I mean, at the same time, too, I mean, let's do some fact checkers here. I mean, they were pretty much had no choice. They kind of rushed into it last moment. I mean, the timing of it. You already saw the Hall of Fame game get canceled back in 2011 when they last negotiated their last CBA, which is pretty much out the window right now. But the thing is, too, I mean, it was, remember, 2010, I think when I do the research on this, that was the only uncapped year in recent memory. That was back in 2010. Last year, the Steelers went to the Super Bowl. And I just wonder right now how you guys are feeling about it right now, because a lot of things that was going into this, too. I mean, it wasn't just the players who are playing in this, because remember, the vote total for this, as we looked at it, I believe it was like 1,019 and 959 vote tallies according to Adam Schefter. I mean, you had a bunch of these guys really like turning it down, ripping into it, so have you. But I do believe right now, I mean, a lot of these guys who were definitely the same people that were not in favor of it, I mean, I think it was more so the veteran players. The thing is, I mean, there's a lot of these guys who did not vote on this. And where it's like the younger players or what have you. But, I mean, when we look at all this, I mean, for like the official like vote tallies and stuff, I mean, it was definitely an interesting thing right here when we pieced it all together. I think right now, I mean, when you looked at it, I mean, you basically had like about 52% of the votes. Did like 52% to decide this CBA to get ratified and get pushed through. So that's where we stand right now. So you got like some leniency, I guess you could say, somewhat on drug policy. I mean, as far as regards to marijuana, by narrowing the window for testing from 4 months to 2 weeks at the start of training camp, and reduce the number of players who are subjected to testing. Deal increase the level of THC that qualifies as a positive test from 35 nanograms of carboxy THC per milliliter of urine to 150, and reduces penalties, including the eliminations of suspensions for players who test positive. So, I mean, that's one thing that's fair. I mean, a lot of people have been bringing up lately, too. When you got, like, the way the economy is right now, at its current state right now, with the coronavirus, I mean, being a big, overwhelming concern right now. I mean, not just here in the U.S., but a lot of people being affected by it. I really do believe right now, I mean, a lot of players, I mean, I think they had to be a little bit fearful. I mean, if they would have blew off this deal, they probably would have not seen anything bigger than this anyway. I mean, the way I look at it, it was kind of like a take it or leave it deal by the owners. I mean, you even had right now, I mean, when you had Marcus Spears on ESPN, who's a personality, NFL and ESPN, he's on Get Up, and he's on the NFL on ESPN. He was just saying a lot of times in these situations, when it comes to like when he was around the last CBA, I mean, negotiation back in 2011, he even just flat out said a lot of these times when you got like players coming up to owners with bigger pockets, bigger purses, and money. I mean, billionaires you're dealing with, millionaires then billionaires. A lot of times, 9 times out of 10, he really believes that the owners and executives are the most likely get their way in all of these decisions. And that's the thing we have to keep mindful of too. I mean, don't get me wrong. I want to see players get their fair shake of the pie here. But I mean, at the same time too, like I said, I really do feel like there was a lot of doubt. I mean, like by DeMaurice Smith here, as far as the way he was handling things. I mean, players were very stern in the fact they did not want to have a 17-game negotiated on this CBA where they had to earn this stuff. I mean, that was ultimately the biggest sticking point for a lot of players here. And when you really think about it, I mean, like I said, the biggest thing where I felt like where I kind of like wised up a little bit on Saturday evening, I was reading an article, and this involved like one of the guys who was a former player for the Minnesota Purple People years. We're talking about Carl Eller here, and he was saying too, I mean, when you looked at it, I mean, it's like, you gotta remember, you're affecting a lot of former retired players' pensions and benefits. So that's the thing. I mean, it's like if you do pass on this deal, you're affecting everybody, not just guys that are playing on the field, people in the media, retired former players. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, I remember once upon a time in 2007 where I seen Mike Ditka rallying up a bunch of retired football players, and I remember one of the things that stood out, and they're attacking Gene Upshaw at the time, right now, who, I mean, who's another guy. I mean, he did okay, but I mean, towards the end, he had some shaky pastures going on right there, and with some guys, I mean, who did not really have the best of careers, but they were just beaten down. All I remember is just like over like 3 years later, and you have the head-to-head concussions. I mean, like being outlawed pretty much in the NFL. I mean, and just I mean, outlawed. What I mean by that is just guys that just you're gonna get flagged a lot more, and that was in the foul year of an uncapped CBA. So I mean, it was just I think the timing right there was just like definitely worse at that time, especially when you didn't have a CBA negotiated. But as it now stands, we're going to be having a CBA that's going to be running through 2030. So you pretty much got a 10 plus deal. So 11 years altogether beginning this season. Remember, again, as far as 17 game season goes, we're looking about 2020, 21, and that's where the increased revenue should kick up between 48.8% up to 49%. And like I said, you gotta look at the bigger picture. It's like I always tell people, it's one thing where you gotta take care of your own life, but you also gotta remember too, it's also the people who are involved in the picture with you, such as retired veterans right here. I mean, that's one of the things the NFL always get picked at apart is how they're taking care of these legends who risked everything to play in this game and the way they did. Again, if you guys want to feel free to get in the conversation, the number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, that number to be reached is 312-209-2232. You can follow me on Twitter at Prodigy Richie, at Metal Steel, CJR, at On Deck, CSR. You can also check me out on Instagram, which I'm streaming off live right now, at Prodigy Richie, at Metal Steel Nation. That's lowercase. Both those follows right there on Instagram. Then at On Deck CSR, that's capital O, capital D, and all caps for CSR on Instagram. My YouTube channel. You can also follow me, Metal Steel Podcast, and then you can also look me up on Mixcloud for all the latest Metal Steel podcasts and my shows I do on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com on deck every Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. Let's get into a little bit more details too. Now, one thing that we already knew going to the CBA, the roster increases. So the roster, you're going to have basically about 2 more players on the roster right now. This is going to go from 53 to 55 players total right now as it stands. So that's another big change right there. So, I mean, you definitely got a little bit more roster increase. The only thing I'm still wondering is if they're going to like still have that thing implemented. I mean, because remember one of the things that was being debated too and thought about was one of the games you had to try and rest some of your starters and play your bench players. I don't know if that's going to be the case this year. It'd be truly interesting to see, like, once it officially goes into effect, that 17th game right there. The only part I do not like is why not create an extra bye. Make it a 19-week schedule, and maybe just do 2 preseason games, and then you have 2 bye weeks. I don't know about anyone else on there, but that's one of the things I'd be a little concerned about, because I'll be honest with you, last time I looked up in the history of the sport, I think the last time there was ever 2 byes in a season was 1993 when the Dallas Cowboys went on to be back-to-back Super Bowl champions, which, by the way, Hall of Fame coach Jimmy Johnson will be joining Billy Cowher as the only 2 coaches being selected as the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So that's another little interesting tidbit when you look at it there. I mean, in that respective. So I would personally, I mean, if you're going to be increasing games, you should at least give the players an extra bye week. I mean, minimum. I think that definitely should have been on the table. I think that was definitely wrong. They did not offer that, but that's just my stance on that right now. Again, if you guys want to get on the conversation number, if you want to reach, is 312-209-2232. I'm streaming live on the Metal Steel podcast page. Once you enjoy it, like it, or whatever, you could just simply just type Menace at Menace Steel Nation. That's capital M, capital S, capital N. And then the final tidbit right now is, of course, a new playoff format, which will be going into effect this season right now. So, I mean, that's another thing right now. So we're looking at it. But here's the thing, I was wrong. So let me correct one thing. The playoff format, that'd be next season, not this season. So 2021. So excuse me there. So this year we'll be having the 12 teams. I mean, which is probably good news right now for the Steelers' case, in my opinion, because you got Ben Roethlisberger right now, who's got 2 years left on his deal right now. I'll be honest with you, because the only part I'm gonna just give you my opinion again on the expand playoffs. My only fearful thing is how often do the Steelers win all 4 rounds, having success and winning a championship. The only time they ever did was in 2005, where they won all 4 rounds, and they had that run where they ended on a 4-game winning streak and won every round of the playoffs as a road team. And I believe it was the first team in history to do every game on the road as a 6th seed when you looked at everything that went down. So, because remember, the only time that the Steelers ever had the number 1 seed, because that's where the thing is going to be interesting right there, because only the top team in each conference, not the top 2, the top team in each one. So Steelers, which, by the way, in history, they had that in 2004, and they still came up short to Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. Almost was the end of Jerome Bettis' career right there. He was already contemplating retirement at that point. I mean, thankfully he got wind of the fact that the Super Bowl was going to be his hometown after finding out, so he stuck around. He gutted out for another performance right there, despite being a emotional roller coaster ride. I mean, this guy really did give it his all and really did a lot. I mean, for the ride, even through an injured Ben Roethlisberger at times. Right now, I got Astronaut A4 who joined right now. Very, very much. Welcome to the Metal Steel podcast. Glad to have you on here. Hope everyone is, like I said, just being safe on this time right now. And here we go. I got a little call right now. This is Charles Project Richie. Welcome to the Metal Steel podcast. Who's this?
Hey, Charles. It's Brian Diardo.
Hey, how's it going, Brian?
Not too bad. Just saw you were doing a show, and it was a crazy day for the Steelers in free agency.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of days before the start of free agency, to be more specific.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you just heard right now, I got a good friend of mine, friend of the show right now, Brian Diardo of CBS Sports. You can follow him at Brian Diardo. He's the national football writer, and he still covers the Steelers from time to time, but he's doing a lot more on a national basis, which has been this summer right now. And I got to be honest with you right now, Brian, right now, I mean, let me ask you, do you agree with a fact right now? Because I know a lot of players have expressed doubt over DeMaurice Smith, and the extra game was going to be inevitable, the extra game or two, when you really looked at things, I mean, throughout this. Don't you think that they could have been DeMaurice Smith could have been a little bit more aggressive for the players' sake and try and like push for an extra bye instead of 1 bye week? Because that's going to be pretty much going to affect into next season.
Well, Charles, at the start of this, I was actually more in favor of, more against this new proposed CBA that now will be going into effect. I did not like the 17th game. I obviously didn't like the lack of adding another bye week. I wasn't a huge fan either of the playoff extension. I just thought the NFL, the way it's currently constructed, was kind of the perfect model. And, with all due respect to the Steelers, I mean, they had the last 3 weeks of the season to state their case as a playoff team, and they weren't able to do so, largely because of injuries. But I don't think that they needed nor deserved to be in the playoffs. On the other side, I don't think the Rams neither deserved nor should have been in the playoffs. I thought that, I don't know, I just think that typically 12 teams out of 32, that's a nice dynamic. 2 teams going to bye. So there's incentive there. One team doesn't get a massive edge, advantage. So I was in large against it. But the last couple of days, I've come more around to the new CBA because the more I look at it, yes, the negative is an extra week and the extended playoff format. I'm kind of coming around to the extended playoff format. It creates more excitement for other teams than yeah, I mean, the Steelers make the playoffs the last 2 years as opposed to not making it. And with the 18 team, you don't know what that team could have done with that offense. I don't think that last year's team would have done anything with the quarterback play. But, yes, the negative is for the players, the extra game, no bye week. But I think you look at all the positives. You look at some of the bottom roster players, so to speak, the special teams guys, the guys on rookie contracts, the guys on one-year deals. That 17th game provides them, if you span it out over 16 weeks, $4.4 million, the equivalent of, that's $250,000 game check. So that helps them. That it creates extra roster spots. So now more guys are getting jobs across the league. The players wanted, a lesser preseason. They got that. They wanted lesser penalties on marijuana use and things of that nature. They got that. So they get an extra 1.5 points, I think, in revenue sharing. So I think when you look at the entire thing, I think it was fair. I don't like the 17th game. I don't. But the players in large got what they want, and that was reflected in the majority vote.
I still think they could. They did shorten the preseason. Technically, at the end of the day, remember, this ain't going to be until the following season, but there's a lot of talk, though, too. They could even done, 2 games, and that's why I was bringing up the extra bye part. But as far as, with the playoffs being expanded right now, so instead of it being the top 2 seeds in each conference, be having the top seed in each conference, which teams do you think will benefit from that the most right now? Which ones you think it will hurt as far as, being a championship-level team?
It makes the Chiefs' title defense a little tougher, obviously, because now, they would have had to have played the Steelers in the first round last year if this was in place. Do I think the Chiefs win? Yeah, I don't think the Steelers pull off the upset. That being said, you don't know who could have gotten hurt in that game. That's just one more wear and tear on your body. You look at the 49ers, a running team. I think teams that run the ball. I think this more on which teams it could hurt, Charles. What positions could this hurt more? I think this is going to really hurt the running back position. When Jim Brown first started, who people consider the greatest running back of all time, there were 12 regular season games, so it was easy for those were the days where a running back could really dominate the field because you didn't have to worry about load management. You could give a running back the ball 30 times a game in those days, 12 games. That's not that terrible. You look at, then they moved to 14 games. You still saw running backs were prevalent, the Franco Harris era, and Larry Zonka, you still saw it. But then once you started to get to 16 games, then you started to see some of those running backs go away. Yeah, you still had your Barry Sanders, you still had your Emmitt Smith, but it was more about the quarterbacks once we got to 16 games. And I think now that we're at 17, you're going to need a running back by committee. Look what the Chiefs just did winning the Super Bowl. Look what the Titans tried to do with Henry. It worked to a degree, but Henry was on a rookie contract. But that's why they franchised him today. And that's why I don't know if you're going to see any running backs make big money here. If the Patriots were still, on their reign, which it looks like it's over as we know it, it's going to kill them. They had a playoff bye every year from 2010 to 2018. Last year they didn't have the bye. They lost in the first round. So I think those top-tier teams are really going to hurt. I think now it's more of a war of attrition to get to the Super Bowl. I think having an elite quarterback is more important than ever. I think having a defense with really good cornerbacks, really good edge rushers, and a good inside linebacker I think those, you're going to have a much greater chance of winning. I don't know. I think the days of stationary inside linebackers are gone. It's a brave new world. And I think again, I don't like the 17 games, but I think if the players voted for it, then I guess that's all that matters, right? And I don't like the fact that they didn't, to my knowledge, just Thursday night games, things of that nature. I think those need to be over, or if you're going to have them, the teams that participate in those games should get buys the next week, or they should be coming off buys prior to playing in that game.
You know what? And the way I was just mentioning a few moments ago before you came on too, and the way I looked at this deal a lot, I mean, from the owners too, especially what you had going out. 'Cause remember, the votes took place like about a week or two before this coronavirus really started getting all seriousness, where you saw the effects across the board, whether with sports, churches, schools, businesses, bars, and stuff being shut down. I mean, when you looked at the total package, I view this deal pretty much by the owners and what the players was like, if fair enough to sum it up, as a take it or leave it deal.
Yeah,
in some ways.
Players did not. I think in general, the league. I mean, strikes are not good for business, and you don't know if there's any fear tactics involved, but strikes are not good for business, and especially now in today's climate with everything going on the outside of sports. I think positivity was encouraged. I think when right now there's so much question marks and chaos out there, the fact that the NFL, in the midst of this, agreed on a deal, I think that's for sure encouraging, right? I mean, that's an encouraging thing. And I think NFL players, especially the older ones, like Ramon Foster just retired, he was part of this agreement. I think they were trying to look down the line. I mean, what they did was they gave the players, more revenue shares. They gave them, security now for another 10 years, which, next year you never know. You don't know what the economy is going to be like next year. You never know what the climate's going to look like. I mean, in 2017, the NFL was losing viewership, or reportedly they were, with the national anthem thing. So I think some of the way maybe some of the way the older players looked at the situation was this. We just came off a highly successful year, a very, compelling, competitive Super Bowl. There's star power in the league now, young star power in the league. I think it's the right time. It's going to, confirm that there's going to be NFL football for 10 more years, give more money to the players, get rid of a preseason game. And it isn't perfect, again. But this is the thing, Charles. You don't know if players would have really wanted an extra bye. I mean, obviously they would like the extra time off, but now you're cutting into their off season, and players want their off season. So because players love playing, I think a lot of them are enjoying this off time right now.
But not only that, too. I think another thing you got to look at it this way too. I mean, think of it like a marriage when you have, or like a company when you have like executives and your managers and your teammates and your coworkers, like your team leads and your supervisor. I mean, you also got to look at it this way too. Even if they did strike again, I mean, since like 2011 games that season, my thing is, I mean, if you don't accept this one right now, and especially for all the retired players, the people in the media, not just the players, I really think you make this relationship more edgier than what it was in years past. I mean, it's like, I think you start burning like some type of like trust level there on both sides, because I really do believe, like you were saying, they did try going super lenient on them as far as like with the marijuana testing, the disciplinary action. I mean, you're giving like 2 more roster spots right there. I mean, you're trying to do as much as you can to increase like the revenue share.
Well, you look at the marijuana topic. I mean, that pretty much ended Martavis Bryant's career.
Yeah.
That is in jeopardy of ending Josh Gordon's career. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, just how hard is it to not smoke weed? I mean, the thing is, a couple of years ago, I mean, that's a valid argument. But the fact that it was legal in the state that Josh Gordon was smoking when he was kicked off the Seattle Seahawks, that to me seems, I don't know, it seems like the NFL had way too much clout there, where it's legal in a state, but you can't do it during your off time. I mean, all jobs have different laws and rules and whatever, but I don't know. I think the players obviously enjoy their marijuana more than maybe the public thinks because, again, a lot of them voted to approve this. And I think that was, as you said just now, I think that was a big sticking point. I think that was a big reason why the players ultimately did this is because they obviously enjoy that. A lot of the players say that it helps them recover from games, helps them make them feel better from games. And yeah, it was ending careers, and now that won't be the case.
Now, I want to swing things all across the league right now, too. I mean, one of the biggest transactions that was happening today, too, as far as quarterback-wise, I mean, you saw Dak Prescott, as expected. He got hit with the franchise tag. I think he got hit with the exclusive tag today. But yet, you got Kirk Cousins right here 2 years ago about this time at the start of free agency or going into it. He got a 3-year contract, fully guaranteed at about $84 million, if I'm not mistaken. Right now, I think he's gained $66 million in guarantees for a 2-year extension. What do you think was the biggest difference in Kirk Cousins versus Dak? Do you think Kirk Cousins with the Vikings, he finally started to win some of his teammates over? I mean, what was nearly halfway of the season? Remember, you have a couple unhappy receivers that fall about actually leaving the turning tail on the Vikings. They managed to stick together. They made it as a wild card. They won a playoff game together. Kirk Cousins first, by the way. Do you think those were incentives right there that got him his extension? And what do you feel about the difference between those two signings right there?
Him and Dak? I mean, the Cowboys have so much money tied up in Ezekiel Elliott that they really didn't have much of a choice. I think, Dak's not giving them any wiggle room. I mean, Dak wants to be the league's highest paid quarterback, which would make him the league's highest paid player, or right up there with Mahomes. This is a win for Dak, though, because now, the longer Dak remains without a longer-term deal, the more time he has to see what Mahomes does. I don't think it's fair. I don't think Prescott should be asking for whatever money Mahomes gets. But obviously he wants to be right under Patrick Mahomes. So let's say Mahomes signs for 40, Dak's going to want 37. And if I was Dallas, I wouldn't do it. I mean, I wouldn't give him more money than 33, 34. For sure, not more than 35. I mean, at this point, we're coming down to me, it's a team. They just lost their best cornerback today, largely because of the fact they paid Ezekiel and the fact they're probably going to pay Prescott. They're probably going to pay Amari Cooper. I mean, this is the issue with the NFL. It's not monopoly. Jerry Jones can't just pay everybody all. I mean, if Jerry Jones had his way, everybody would get their money. Dak's a very good quarterback. He's proven he can win in the playoffs. He's proven he can get his teams to the playoffs. They weren't as good the year they didn't have Ezekiel Elliott.
Right.
They slipped up last year. So for those reasons, I wouldn't give him top billing. I mean, you when you pay Ezekiel Elliott, you're pretty much saying he's our best offensive player. That's what you're saying. And when we win, if we win, we're going to win with him. I mean, that was my whole thing with Ben and Le'Veon Bell. If Ben's getting the big money and Antonio's getting the big money, there's no way you can give Bell big money. You can't lock up that much money with 3 players, especially on offense. You've got to have money to throw around at your defense, your offensive line, and whatever. So, I just think we'll see. I mean, again, when you pay Ezekiel Elliott, you've got to surround him with complementary pieces. Maybe one other star, but that's it. With Cousins, he won a playoff game, and I think he got a lot of clout winning that playoff game. He's always proven to be serviceable if he has a good defense and enough complementary pieces around him. And, I thought he was very good last year. He has sketchy moments. I'm specifically recalling the primetime game in Seattle late in the season, another primetime game he lost. But he's serviceable. He's a very good quarterback, and I think a lot of teams would be happy to have him.
So let's get into some of the cuts the Steelers actually made of their own today, too, right now. Beginning with Anthony Chickle, who actually, as a matter of fact, this year, I think the writing on the wall was a little bit inevitable for him ever since he got into that domestic violence dispute. I mean, what you got off the hook for. I felt that pretty much, in my opinion, spelled the end for him. I mean, they're going to be saving about $5 million in this year's cap. He was set to make about a little over $6 million towards the cap but with the release, they'll be having a $1.10 million in dead money, according to Over the Cap. And then not only that, you also had the contracts terminated of linebackers. I mean, of course, I already mentioned Anthony Chickle. You got the other one, Mark Barron right now. Barron, they saved $5.25 million. LB charged $2.88 million in dead money. And, of course, John Holton's released. I mean, pretty much got off the hook real easily. I mean, this is a guy who came from the Raiders to the Steelers a year ago. They're saving $825,000. Don't worry, I have to be with that money charged and retire. But Vance McDonald right now, they are going to be converting $5.5 million of his base salary and turn it into a signing bonus. So you're going to be having an additional $2.5 million spread throughout the length of the contract right now. Which cuts did you like right there, and what did you think was a smart signing right now? Of course, Bud Dupree, who's set to make around $60 million under tag, still possible to get a long-term deal with him.
I think the Hargrave one hurts the most. Losing him was tough. I don't know. It's tough. He was coming into his own. He was a nice young player. I'm sure they watched him. He was a starter from year one, helped the Steelers get to an AFC Championship game. And he was not a Pro Bowl player, but he was on his way, and was definitely a big, underrated part of their team. And when Tua got hurt this year, he really stepped up and elevated his game. They're gonna have Tyson Alualu fill that void, and they'll probably have other guys come in there and whatever. I know they drafted the kid from Alabama last year. So, I mean, they're going to have pieces to come in and help out. But, that was a big loss. That was definitely a big loss.
Well,
and you look at him, Artie Burns, Sean Davis.
Yeah.
He was the best of the Steelers' top 3 rookies from that class. And so I didn't love the Barron cut, but it makes sense. He was going to make $5.5 million. That's way too much for what he brings to the table. So I understand that. I don't think it was because of performance why they got rid of it. It was simply for cap reasons. But Foster also hurts, but they've got to get younger at the offensive line. So they just need some fresh blood. Again, that's no knock on Foster, who was very good. I can't believe he never made a Pro Bowl starting for Pittsburgh for a decade, and all the success that offense had. He was obviously in the conversation as the most underrated player of the decade for the Steelers, one of them. And I'm okay with McDonald. I mean, that's a Ben move. Ben likes McDonald. Ben and him were developing really good rapport in 2018. McDonald, like Juju and like some of the other weapons on the Steelers, his numbers regressed last year largely because of the quarterback play. So, I'm good with him coming back another year. He's only going to be 3 years old. He was willing to restructure his contract, so to get cap money. Plus, they don't have Xavier Grimble. They need a veteran there. And I think that's one of the reasons why losing Foster they're okay with, because they've got other veterans in the offensive line room. I mean, DeCastro now is an elder statesman, which is crazy to think. He's an elder statesman. Villanueva has been an elder statesman. Pouncey is an elder statesman. Now they need to start bringing some of these younger guys up. Now I would imagine they're going to try to keep B.J. Finney, who's free agent market. I'm not sure how big it'll be because he's not a huge name. I think teams that and obviously he can't play tackle. He can play guard and center, but that's it. So he's done well in both positions, even though last year was not his best season. So Barron's the one that hurts quite a bit. Hargrave's the one that hurts the most, and and again, I'm good with Vance McDonald as well. The Steelers and Holton was a bad. I mean, they should have kept Deontay Spencer. Any Steeler fan that watched the preseason last year knows that. So, not much you need to talk to about him. But I'm looking forward to the free agency.
Yeah.
The Steelers definitely can try to find a veteran receiver. They tried last year with Moncrief, that didn't work out. So they'll try to find another veteran receiver this year. Maybe veteran running back, but the veteran running back market's not great. I know that Frank Gore's still out there, so maybe they get him for another year. See what he can do, third down guy. But I don't know. It'll be an interesting year for the Steelers because now they've got some holes. They've got a hole on the defensive line. They need somebody. They need more depth at the offensive line. I know everybody's talking about the receiver they're going to get or the running back they're going to get. I'm not too excited. They might get Cam Akers. That's a stretch, though. But the running back class is actually deeper than most people think. The receiving class is good. I think it's a little overhyped, but I think it is a good class. I mean, the defense is set other than defensive tackle, and they've got enough pieces there to make it work. And with Tua coming back, they should be better. But I'm concerned about the offensive line a little bit. And, and I think the receivers are fine with the Steelers and the running backs. As long as they're healthy, they need more depth at running back. I mean, as good as Kareth White was, they need an upgrade there. They're going to need another receiver because they just lost Holton, and everybody knows Ryan Switzer. I mean, last year was pretty much a lost year for him. So they've got to get some depth there.
I will say this, though, too, about Javon Hargrave and Mark Barron. I mean, Javon Hargrave, if you really think about it, too, I mean, when they went to their first championship game together in his rookie season, he was part of the future of the rebuild of that defensive line because you remember Stephon Tuitt, he replaced Brett Kiesel back in 2014 when he hurt and injured his tricep, which finished him off for a season, yet his career, too, in 2014 against the Saints. So he was the next man up as far as like the future right there. And I think a guy like Hargrave, he helped out a lot playing nose tackle on that D line because you know what? Hargrave, in my opinion, I mean, he was definitely a good presence as a run stopper right there that really slowly started like correcting some like the tackling issues up front. I really feel like he was definitely part of an attitude of that front right there. And as far as Mark Barron, I really do believe, I mean, let's be honest, that was Devin Bush's leadership role would probably be taking in the future shortly. I think Mark Barron was just there to tutor Devin Bush. I mean, it still wasn't known, I mean, until they moved up 10 spots about a month and a half later when they got Devin Bush, but I think he definitely was used as a pawn, I mean, for that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Charles, unfortunately, I'm going to have to bounce here, but I did want to say one last thing. It's tough. It's a tough conversation to have, for sure. But, everybody's talking about make or break seasons and whatnot. I mean, there should be pressure on Ben to play really well this year, coming off this injury. Yes, he's in the Hall of Fame. He has nothing else to prove. He's been a great player, but he's costing the Steelers a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they can keep Hargrave if they have, let's say Ben retired this offseason, or they decide to move in another direction. Like, let's say that in a different universe, Mason Rudolph proved he could do it, or Hodges, which is a lot more far-fetched. But regardless, Ben retires or whatever, they re-sign Hargrave. He's on the team still, or somebody else. They can go get somebody. Again, maybe that's not the right thing. Maybe you still want Ben to be your quarterback. We'll see. And that's my whole thing here. Like, we'll just have to see. But if Ben plays bad this season, the writing's kind of on the wall there because he's making a lot of money and because of that locks up the Steelers where they don't have enough money to really give Dupree what he deserves based on last year. They couldn't pay Hargrave, which maybe that's a wash. Maybe that's just a player that all right, we can't afford him. He's got to go. But it really ties up what you can do when you're paying one person that much money. So for Ben, it's a very much a we'll see kind of season. And I'm very interested to see how he plays.
And my last thing before I let you go real quickly, how much does this hurt? I mean, with the retirement of Ramon Foster, obviously he was more than likely to be gone. That was Ben's protection right there, left guard right there. And do you see the Steelers getting offensive lineman, a Muller in the draft with their first or second pick right now?
Yeah.
How significant when you think of Ben?
There are some good offensive linemen out there for sure, and I think the Steelers might try to do that. But traditionally, they get their guys through the draft. So I think they'll do that. I think now they're definitely going to try to keep Finney. And we'll see what some of their other guys can do. I know they've drafted some other linemen over the last couple of years. So we'll see how those guys shape up. The name escapes me. The guy they got 18 along with Mason Rudolph. I can't recall his name right now. The James Washington draft, that whole thing. I could see him, but I can't get his name. But look him up afterwards. They've got some depth already on the line, but they'll probably draft someone. The issue with an offensive lineman is very seldom are they ready to go year one. Pouncey was an exception. Zola Nueva was an exception. But the Steelers are good traditionally getting guys up to speed on the line. So we'll see how that goes. But Charles, thanks for taking my call, man. Always good talking to you, and I'm sure we'll touch base again soon.
Likewise, man. Brian, it was always a pleasure having you. I hope you're staying safe for all this stuff that's going on right now, especially with the sickness and stuff. But I was glad to hear you good spirits, and keep it up, my man. And definitely get back in touch soon. We'll definitely figure something out.
You too, buddy. Thanks again.
Have a good night, my man.
You too.
All right, bye-bye. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, that was Brian DiArdo of CBS Sports right there. He is a national football writer as well as for the Steelers from time to time. Definitely he's got his priorities a lot more spread out. And yeah, I think that is definitely right there. I mean, fair or foul topic number one, Ramon Foster, his presence. How much is that going to impact, as far as like Ben Roethlisberger's success this year? I think that's got to be a huge thing right there. That's your left guard right there who just retired. Yeah, he wasn't going to be around, but you got right now, the next man up, when you look at the depth chart, you got J.C. Hassenauer right now, followed by Garrett Brumfield. You can't really ask David DeCastro to transition left guard. I'm not so sure about that. But I think right now, one guy who I'd be interested in seeing is Chukwuma Okorafor right there. Would he be a guy that'd be willing to look into moving from left tackle to left guard for Ben Roethlisberger right there? That was a big guy that drafted towards the end of the draft. So that's fair foul topic number one. I'm going to have to say fair for right now until they prove something right now. And that's going to do it for this edition here of the Men of Steel podcast. I want to say thank you for those of you joining here. Again, they catch me every Mondays and Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Astronaut84, thank you very much for joining. Terrell, Becky, thank you very much for joining on Facebook Live. And again, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Prodigy Richie, at Men of Steel CJR, at OnDeck CSR, Instagram, Prodigy Richie, OnDeck CSR, Men of Steel Nation, YouTube channel, Men of Steel Podcast, and follow all the latest podcasts on Mixcloud, Men of Steel Podcast. As always, leave you. Don't be trolling, be rolling. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. I gone.